Gizzo!
Hey, girl, hey.
Hi. Are you okay?
I'm well.
You
Swell.
are? You don't seem well. You
You think,
seem like anxious, even how you're sitting.
maybe that's just my way of being. I don't know. I don't,
Okay.
I don't,
I'm
I'm not
genuinely asking. I'm not
consciously,
even trying to be smart.
I'm not, conscious. I mean, that leads right into my update of, feeling like I'm rushing all day. I have in the past episodes, I told everybody about my life-changing, habit of scheduling everything that I do. And it it causes, maybe that's what it is. It causes a lot of anxiety because like I wake up and I'm immediately like, okay, now I have to eat and get dressed. Now I have to go to the studio. Now I have to work out. And I'm just constantly I'm not never on time. So like it just increases my awareness of time and I'm not on time because I haven't quite figured out the timing of all the things, or even when I am on time, I'm like, yeah, I'm crushing it, but it's still driven by this anxiety. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe, yes, maybe I am just feeling anxious and I hate that I'm feeling this way. And I'm feeling pressure as Jolie goes into school. This is her year of filling out lots of applications and applying to high school. So I'm like trying to
Eighth
stay
grade,
on
right?
in eighth grade. Yeah, but this is the year that she applies and gets accepted.
Wait, she's in eighth grade, right? Or is
She's
she in seventh grade?
she's in eighth. She is in
Okay.
eighth grade, but
So she
like
took all
they,
the tests last year.
yeah, and
I
like the
see.
grades of seventh grade is what
Hmm.
they're looking at. But then the application process.
Is
So
this year?
I just feel myself like rushing, and um I'm watching the self-talk as well if things aren't getting completed, or just the lack of presence that's happening. And the only antidote is slowing down, which is like the antithesis of getting all the work done. So I actually talked to somebody about this, and he was just kind of like, the what is it, the opposite of anxiety is excitement, or like inside of anxiety is excitement, and like focusing on what you're excited about in all of the tasks that you're doing, why you're doing all of these things, what is the part that gives you life, as well as making sure that you have these moments of release and reprieve throughout the day, which I just have not created. It's just one thing after another after another after another until I go to bed. So yeah, maybe I need to take a deep breath and kind of melt into this episode, because I wasn't even knowing that I was anxious, but that's probably what I was feeling. So wusa. And I just want to also just thank everyone. Last week I mentioned the raffle and fundraiser for a family in Gaza, and thanking everyone for contributing to that. And we will be picking out the winner this Friday,
I
tomorrow,
was
and
gonna say,
hopefully
did I win?
landing on our. You bought a lot, so you
I'm
should.
about to buy more just to try to win. That's how the raffles work.
It
It's
is.
like you spent more money on the
Antoinette,
tickets.
Antoinette won. Wow.
No, I legit bought
No, you
tickets though. If
did.
I did win,
It would make sense if it would make sense if you
probability,
won.
you know.
Statistics, but shout out to the
Did
people that
people
have.
buy them?
People have been buying. Yeah.
That makes me very happy. Good,
Yeah. How you
good.
doing?
Oh, what you described is like
Your life.
it's kind of what I function in. I'm like, oh, I'm functioning. I'm sitting there and I was listening to you and I was like, oh man, I wonder if there's any learnings from the lateness. Like instead of beating yourself up, like what's the learning from it? I don't know if I just offered you relief. I offered you
I don't
correction.
know if it's a
Damn.
learning. I think it's just like, it's some of the stuff is impossible to do, because if you're going by the minute, if it's like, oh, I worked out and I'm I'm 15 minutes behind, I'm beating myself up about the 15 minutes and the anxiety is growing. It's one thing to be like an hour,
Is that a
45
learning?
minutes.
I'm asking, like, is it a learning? Like, oh, I actually can't do this during this time of the day and still be on time, or I actually, need more time, so I have to schedule this differently.
I think if I were to be really, yeah, I probably would that part and also the amount of things that I'm trying to cram into a
It,
day while
yeah,
also having the most important thing of like release and relief. Yeah, I'd have to like minimize it to 2 to 3 things to really get done in a day, and that just feels like
that might be a
counterproductive.
win though. That might be a win to know that, because the more you try to cram in there, I don't know if you're doing your best at them or they're being accomplished in the best way. Easier said than done, because some shit
Yeah,
just gotta get done.
something gotta
But
get done.
I know at work, that's what I often do, is that I'll look back at like a project or a timeline, and or look at the budget and like, why do we have reserves? What happened? And go back and try to be like, okay, these are the learnings. We
Yeah,
actually needed more time here, and
yeah,
we needed to convince the client of that, or we needed more money for X, Y, and Z.
yeah.
They need to pay for that next time, or we needed more bodies, or we needed whatever it is, like try to find those things. Or I know I know something that I'm doing now on a project is like, I'm looking at the timeline, I know it's insane. So I like a month in advance just put meetings on the calendar to be like, all right, we're gonna huddle on Monday to have a game plan for how we get through this week.
Mhm.
And like on Monday, we're gonna know in our heads this day's gonna be a late night. Like we're gonna be able to prepare ourselves mentally for that. We're gonna have the right staffing, like we're gonna be ready because
I think the the worst part is that I don't have those I'm not giving myself that time for reflection even, Like, I'm
mhm.
waking up at 5:30 and I'm going, and then I'm going to sleep, and I don't have
Yeah.
then that relief time to be like, "Oh, what the fuck
To look back
happened?"
on your
Yeah,
calendar.
yeah,
Mhm.
and then it's even we talked about this a little bit with the business counseling, but the difference of time and the when you're doing creative work or when you're, like, building something
Mhm.
is different type of, like, lived experience of time when you're doing something that's very root and like, "Oh, I know I need to do this, write invoices, da da da," versus, like, I have to build something which is it takes a lot of it just takes a different type of labor and energy that you can't if you try to put it into 2 hours, it just sometimes it's not enough or anyway.
Yeah.
But true, yeah. Yeah, I create some time to think about the time that I'm
You might not be
Mhm.
failing, or you might not be, whatever. This is this is new, so it could be a discovery for you, and maybe approaching it like that can help take some of the pressure off. Is like, this whole scheduling thing is fucking new, and you're gonna stumble across some things as you do it.
Or just try not to approach the scheduling with anxiety. I think the deeper part is that it's all through anxiety. Even though like, "Oh, I have to figure out how to do this even more better," and it gives me anxiety versus like, "Wow, I'm doing this thing." It's there's no excitement in it right now. I'm not allowing for that to be like, "Oh." It's more like, "Oh."
Okay.
So, mhm.
Um, for me, happy birthday to Beyonce. It's my personal update.
Oh gosh.
No, really.
No,
My
really.
my partner actually worked a Sir Davis event. That's her new
Mm.
liquor. I have to be honest. When I saw that she dropped a liquor, I was like, this lady favorite thing is to take our fucking money. And I don't know how I feel about it. The consumerism isn't slapping the same way it once did, but he came home with a bottle of it and I wanted to try it. He told me no.
He said
So
no?
he told me some story about how when you open the bottle, it's going to depreciate. So we got to open it when we actually have something going on. I was like, boy, I didn't had whiskey sitting over here for ages. And
I done
apparently
had a
that's not a thing.
Jameson.
Right, right. Let me see what I got over here. Let me see. No, I got some stuff. Let me see. I got a Douce. No, I ain't got shit really.
Not
That's
a
a shame.
Tuesday.
But if it's unopened, then it's fine to sit. So he had like this whole thing and it was irritating me and we were going back and forth a little bit. And then I was like, you know what? This is not worth it. It's not worth it. You have your little raggedy bottle. You enjoy that person who doesn't drink, but whatever.
Oh, catching
Um,
shots.
he doesn't drink and I drink whiskey. He was like, no, we have to save it. For what? Anyway, I hear it's good. I hear it's very strong, but very smooth. So congratulations to her, I guess. I love her, but I'm starting to feel it's
Trying to
starting to
see
get
her.
tricky.
It's starting to be like,
It start
girl.
every time. Part of it is that I subscribe to the newsletter or the Beyonce.com or whatever, and she be texting all the time for my money. It's always a new shirt, a coaster, some fucking rolling paper, something where I'm just like a
Not
cowboy
rolling
hat.
paper.
I'm like, girl, stop asking me for my money. I don't have none. So tricky, but here we are. I really need to be still. We have similar energy. I've been back and forth to Philly, I think more times this summer than I've ever been. And I'm just like, enough. This coming weekend is my last weekend of having to come back. Um, it is my stepfather, my mom's husband. It is my stepfather's 80th birthday. So shout
Oh,
out to him
damn.
with his old ass. But he out here, yo. So we finna celebrate. Shanti's invited. Very excited. They're very
Mhm.
excited for you to join us. So you
That's
better
my
not cancel.
homie. Listen,
Okay.
I would never. We go
Okay.
way back. You
I
know
want
what I
y'all to know
mean?
that Shanti bought him Ensure for his last
What
birthday,
should
which
I
was
get her
very
for this birthday?
some more Ensure.
No,
So
you can't come back with the same gift.
listen, he is by that age, you're a creature of habit.
You're
That's
Virgo
what they
too.
like.
That's his
That's what
kink.
they like.
Yeah.
So you would get him one bottle and say, "I remembered," and that would be so cute and sweet because he don't need nothing. But I need to reclaim my time. I feel like
Mm.
Maxine Waters. I'm like, okay, there has to be time for me. That's all around, like being in my apartment, you know, just having a weekend, just having my time. I feel like I haven't had that in a very long time. But in all fairness, a lot has been going on this summer. So here we are. But I'm aware of it at the very least. And when I return to Brooklyn, I will have my goddaughter with me. I'm a godmother to another baby.
You got a lot of little god kids,
Yeah, I
child.
got my godson, I've got my goddaughter, and now I have another goddaughter. Joy is officially my goddaughter. Joy, the Portuguese water dog. Jasmine has given me this honor. She saw firsthand our connection when I came and visited last weekend.
Aw.
She was shocked that Joy slept right by my side, like the angel that she is. We went to the dog park. We had a great time. I love that dog. I get to have that dog for 2 months.
Oh,
She's
that's
going to help me
good.
get my steps in.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to be reunited
I'm
with my
happy
baby
for you.
girl. Yeah,
She does you good.
she does. She is definitely
You do each other good.
she's definitely what is it called
A
when people
boo.
have dogs and
Emotional
they're,
support dog.
yeah, she's an emotional support best friend. So I love her and I cannot wait. Those are my updates. So as you can tell, like I didn't have the best day today, but I'm so looking forward I should say I'm looking forward to this birthday party. Sure I am. But I'm really looking forward to this dog. I brought her to see my dad and he like fell in love with her and now his wife wants a dog, my stepmom. So she really is her namesake. She's a joy. So God bless her. Anyway, those are my updates. Very corny.
No, they're wonderful. And I think a lot of people probably relate to your love of the dogs. Listen, y'all, we're back with
Hot
hot
shit.
shit. Let me tell you something. I I was scrolling on Instagram. I saw that Black Thought shared this, reel. I looked at it, and immediately after viewing it for about 7 seconds, I had to be like, "Oh." I had to take a deep breath and be like, "Oh, this is something that you have to be emotionally prepared for." It's a documentary that I believe he helped produce or somehow financed. Somehow he's a part of it. It's called Daughters. And Daughters is a feature documentary. It's about four young girls who prepare for a special, excuse me, four young girls who prepare for a special daddy daughter dance with their
Mm.
incarcerated fathers as part of a unique father program in a Washington, D.C. jail. For most of the daughters, the dance will be the only time they will be able to touch or
Oh my
hug
God.
their fathers during sentences, some of which are as long as 20 years. These
Yeah,
little girls
that's a
range
tearjerker.
from 4 to like 16, 17 years old, and it follows their journey um, leading up to the dance and then updates them after the dance. When I tell you I was sobbing, like shoulders hunched over, just a heartache, heartbreak for all of the reasons. All of the reason. It is a beautiful film. These stories and also the complete lack of humanity in the ways that they treat these fathers and most importantly these daughters, like the fact that they cannot touch their babies, they cannot touch their babies for 20 to 30 years is
Mm.
just inhumane. And I saw that one of the co-directors, Angela Patton, follows the Sable Collective.
Oh wow.
She is the engine, the force, the portal from which this program was created. She really is, her life is invested in Black girlhood and Black girls just developing and getting everything they need and being celebrated. I have to get her on the
Yeah.
show. I'm gonna reach out to her because she deserves all her flowers. And these programs that she this daughter dance program, as well as a lot of just like legal um activism that they're trying to push forward just to change something as basic as this. I cannot believe this is since 2014, I think, because before you could like you could sit down and you can eat, break bread with your family, but they changed these laws to just such a cold world, and way that they do these brothers. I just can't. Please, Antoinette, watch this film. I want to talk about it. If you've watched it, I know you have nothing but like, I know it's impacted you. So everybody go on Netflix and watch Daughters, and I'm going to do my best to get Angela on here so we can just unpack this a little bit and get activated in some way, because it's just necessary stories, child.
I will. I'll watch it. I'm glad to hear that Netflix is doing something right. We'll get to that later. Um, Natasha Rothwell. Know who that is?
Uh-huh.
A lady from Insecure. And what's the other one? She's so good in it.
No.
Black Lotus.
Oh.
Um,
I
White Lotus.
don't
See how I
remember.
just did that?
I don't remember her in White Lotus. Anyway,
Is she not in White Lotus? Don't
she might
confuse
have
me.
been, but I don't
She's
think
not
so.
the massage lady?
I don't remember. I don't remember. Don't get me to
You didn't watch Did you not watch White Lotus?
I
Now you're making
did.
me nervous,
I enjoyed it
Shanti.
very much, but I don't remember her in it. But that's because
Yeah, she's in it.
I don't remember.
Belinda. Anyway, she is now going to be starring and producing the viral TikTok series, Who the Fuck Did I Marry?
Ah,
And I'm like, good for her. That's great. Good for, I forget Sis's name, because I'm sure she got broke off for that. I hope.
good for her.
And good for her. Like, I will watch that. Hopefully,
Everybody
she
will.
really has some depth in it because I feel like there's so much to explore there, especially with how women betray themselves, why they betray themselves. Like, I hope that it's not just like this kind of,
Yeah.
cheesy drama.
Yeah.
Like, if
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
really digs into the human psychology of this and the want and need for love, and wow, it could be
On the
really
manipulation of.
it could be really spectacular. So I'm excited
Cool.
for
That
that.
is very exciting.
Also, we're getting new Sade. Did you hear about this?
Mm-hmm.
Sade will release Young Lion November 22nd. Shout out to my mom and her birthday.
Oh.
As a part of the Transa Benefit album by nonprofit Red Hot, supporting transgender awareness, featuring trans and non binary artists. The song is dedicated to Sade's son, Isaac, who is a transgender man.
Oh.
I thought that was very
I'm
dope. Mama
excited
said,
for
"Let me
that.
come on out. Let me come on out of retirement real quick.
Oh, come
Hold
on,
you down,
baby.
baby." Yeah. And then sad news. Rest in peace to Fat Man Scoop, who really died so tragically. Like, seemingly had a heart attack on stage and was rushed to the hospital. And then today is September 5th. Rich homie Quan. Like, damn, really young.
Young, both of them.
Both.
53 is young.
Yes.
53, you're reaping all that you have sown for yourself.
Hmm.
And Rich Homie Quan was what, 31?
I think he was either 31 or 33.
34, something like that. I'm older than him. God, breaks my heart. That's unfortunate. And then they played
33.
the emergency call, which was just really
What
infuriating.
emergency call?
Rich Homie Kwan's girlfriend, apparently
Oh
he
God.
was on the couch, went to sleep. She said she left him there overnight and then woke up and took her babies to school and came back and he was still asleep, and she rolled him over and saw that he had like white foam. But that's not the important part. It was just the really infuriating conversation between the operator, who was like, I don't know, it was just they should be allowed
To release
play
that.
those kind of things, because that was
That's-
just
Unless it's like
upsetting.
police investigation, but even
Mhm.
then I feel like it's terrible. I also have one more thing. Rally for reproductive rights that my aunt Barbara is very involved in. Shout out to her, shout out to my godmom. Tuesday, September 17th, 6 to 8 p.m., the University of Pittsburgh, Greensburg. So please check that out. The link will be in the description.
Not really. I need to check out Pittsburgh. It's so far away. I
It's
always
very
think it's
far.
like, oh, it's just like 2 hours away. It's like 5, 6 hours
6
away.
hours. Yeah.
Shit, it's a flight to California. Shout out to all of our new patrons that have joined our Patreon community. We appreciate you so very, very much. Shout out to Key, Whitney, Taylor, Natasha, and Ari. You know who you are. If you want to join our Patreon community, we would love to have you. We invite you with open arms, child. It is a video subscription membership. Every month, you have access to all of our podcast videos. You see our faces, our expressions, little outfits, our homes. There's so much, that you can watch and see and enjoy for a full audio visual podcast experience. So consider becoming a patron. It supports us and gives you a even better experience. Okay.
Do you see my getting grown merch?
It's red. I was about to say red looks fabulous on you.
I look like they said that I look like the McDonald's worker in a shirt.
Who said that?
All the people well, Jade actually, whose shirt I'm wearing. She said you look like you work at Wendy's or McDonald's.
It
But
looks
it's my
the red
praise the
looks
Lord
good on
nigga
you.
shirt.
It looks good. Is that with a hard R?
No.
Oh.
Did I say hard R?
It looked like a hard R at the end
Oh,
there.
don't upset me now. No, it's the AS. Don't try to get them in trouble, Shanti.
Why would I
Well,
do that? I just,
let's take a break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Okay. I don't know that I need to say this. I'm going to add it to the thing. You can start with the first thing.
Earlier this week,
And we're back.
Oh.
Ready? You want to say that? Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And we're back. And we're starting off with politics as usual. Wow, blow. Earlier this week, Netanyahu faced pressure from his own Israeli citizens to ceasefire, to meet a ceasefire deal. This was after, I believe, 6 hostages were killed by their captors in Gaza just as troops were closing in on their location. Folks are outraged. Everybody's exhausted. Everybody just wants it to stop. This is what 11 we're coming up on the anniversary actually of the attack of
Mhm.
Israel on October 7th. I was actually surprised by this. I know that there are you know folks in Israel that protest against the war, but to see the thousands and thousands of people out there fed up just kind of was like, oh, it kind of like sparked um some hope in me, and also just like helped support this idea that this is now unreasonable. I mean, it's been unreasonable for a very long time, but just like the collective exhaustion and frustration that's happening. I was also really surprised to see that the UK recently decided to withhold arms to Israel. Now, it's a very small amount, apparently. Human rights groups, Amnesty International, said the measures were too limited. But I think just that gesture,
It's just certain types of bombs that
certain
they're
types of
withholding.
bonds,
Yeah.
but still, I mean, the reason that they said that they are doing this was definitely around the idea that it was because the government ministers say that the weapons could be used in Gaza to violate international law. And just
Mhm.
that rhetoric and continuing to push that and just to keep naming that
Yeah.
you are committing genocide, that you are breaking international law. Um, I don't know, it felt impactful, even though it
Mhm.
may not stop anything. And I
In
mean,
the immediate.
and the immediate, I had a list. I didn't put that there, but I know Canada. There's another list of folks that have also withdrew giving Israel weapons and like divesting from Israel in a lot of ways. And then I saw that Portland, Maine, I think just today, made a historic move to divest all city from companies complicit in Israel's human rights violation against Palestinians. It was a unanimous vote passed by city council resolution. And I just was like,
Local elections.
local elections. And it was with, I believe it was the I don't want to misname it. I'll have to go back, but I think it's either Portland Palestinian Coalition or Maine Palestinian Coalition. But I looked it up in Philly, and there's like a Philadelphia Palestinian Coalition, and I was looking at some of like the activations and moves and protests that they're promoting, and I think this is a really smart. I mean, of course, go protest, go interrupt some of these speeches and events where politicians are showing up to kind of just like
Awareness.
disrupt. But also, I feel like this is um, a real political move that people can really get behind. And I'm gonna go and see what Philadelphia is doing. But I feel like this is the type of voting, this is the type of politics that I feel is important and that we should all be engaged in. So shout out to Portland, Maine, and shout out to the UK, even though it's a small drop in the sea of it.
Did you see Meta? Did you see that they determined from the river to the sea is not hate speech, but instead a political call for equal rights and self-determination for Palestinian people? Now
No,
they did. So they did that, but there's some folks who are like, yeah, because they want people to use their platform and that's getting the people going and they're arguing online. So if you ban that,
for attention,
then
yeah,
yeah, so
use their attention equity.
yeah. Sadly,
Tricky.
though, Netanyahu, today is the 5th of September, just said that unequivocally there is not a deal in the making in terms of a ceasefire. And I want to play this clip, and I need to get better at saying where these clips are from. I apologize. This clip is from Democracy Now! And this is some new information that was just released today.
Meanwhile, Hamas has accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of deliberately undermining efforts to forge a ceasefire and hostage release deal by refusing to withdraw Israeli troops from the Philadelphia corridor along Gaza's border with Egypt. This comes as newly published documents show how Netanyahu and Israeli negotiators purposefully prolonged Israel's assault on Gaza by making new demands during ceasefire talks. The documents, published by the Israeli newspaper Yedioth Ahronoth, also reveal 3 of the 6 hostages found dead in Gaza last weekend were due for release under a ceasefire agreement drafted in May.
Ooh.
So that
Ooh.
so that is not making mainstream media here in the US. Of course, the 6 hostages that were killed, that is so sad. I felt terrible for their families. They just looked beside themselves to have this hope that your loved one is going to come home, and then to just be delivered remains. And from reports, partly why those hostages were killed was because Israeli soldiers were closing in on Hamas. But not but, hard stop. In addition, it seems that some of those hostages were set to be released based off of this new publication that, mind you, just like she said, is an Israeli publication, which I think supported a lot of the outrage,
Yeah.
and a lot of the frustration.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what I'm seeing online from just different people, reporters who are in Israel, they're talking to Israeli citizens, and many of them don't want Hamas in power. They're against Hamas. They're not even necessarily in favor of Palestinian rights in the same way that I think you and I are, but they understand that they want their loved ones home, that enough is enough. They feel that Benjamin Netanyahu is doing this to remain in power.
Yeah.
They feel completely betrayed by the
Yeah.
government, or they were not in alignment with the government
Mhm.
from jump.
Mhm.
He's wildly unpopular over
Mhm.
there. So I
Mhm.
think that while yes, there's a lot of room for discussion when it comes to Palestinian and Israeli uh, relationships. Um, I do think that the humanity of it all is starting to be the most important, where people are like, we just want people to stop dying, and we want our loved ones to come the fuck home.
Humanity and blatant contradiction and lies. The gaslighting. It's like
I don't know if that's as clear. I don't know, from what I'm hearing, honestly, in some of these interviews, that that a lot of the Israeli citizens are fully aware of all that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, all that they're involved in, and what they're doing in the West Bank. Even now, the West Bank has nothing to do with Gaza. Hamas is not in control in the West Bank. Um,
you
I
don't.
don't know that they're really fully grasping that, many of them, from the interviews I'm seeing.
I mean, just with that, the fact that those 3 of those captors could have been released in May, and then your Netanyahu's keeps talking about the release of the kidnapped folks when you had an opportunity to do. It's just clear that like that's
Well,
not
his
actually what
mhm,
your motives or what is
no,
incentivizing or what you're trying to do. And that's
his new demand is that Hamas has to leave Gaza, and has to give up power completely, which is just not going to happen. And that demand is, he's like, as long as they're in power, we are in danger, which a lot of people can get on board with,
yeah,
honestly.
but it's an
Um,
ideology. It's like,
I
yeah, like
exactly.
how many
But
what?
that's why I say that there's a lot of folks over there who I don't know if all of the information is really sinking in, and if that propaganda is being less effective, because I feel like that kind of propaganda is very effective. I mean, we see it here. So,
It's also very interesting in how belligerent he is, how tyrannical he is as well. And I don't know all of his politics in terms of how he, what he supported in Israel, but I know he was very much right wing, or they
mhm.
describe him as being right wing. and then the US supporting him as a Democratic president supporting him while also saying in another part of its mouth, oh, we can't have a Trump, or we have to protect ourselves from our own version of, maybe they're not completely parallel, but you can't,
Yeah.
to me, you can't just like discredit or not see like,
I
oh,
don't know if
but
they're
you're
supporting
funding that.
him. Right, they're funding that. I don't know if they really support Netanyahu. I know Biden came out today and was like, he's not doing enough for there to be a real ceasefire. Biden keeps announcing that they're close in order to put pressure on Netanyahu, and Netanyahu undercuts him and is like, we are unequivocally not close. I don't know that they support him. I know that they need Israel. I think whoever is in that office, they're going to be tied to, but I truly don't think many of our progressive, I won't even say Biden or Kamala, I'm thinking of a Bernie. We know Bernie doesn't support him. Bernie called him a war criminal. I mean, but Bernie still says he wants a ceasefire, but he also skirts that line of we need Israel based off of the strategic placement of the actual military land. So I don't know that I look at it as they're supporting him. They are by proxy, they are by their actions. I don't think they fuck with him at all, if I'm being honest. But at the end of the day, you're right. They're funding it.
They're funding it. I mean, yeah, how important that, I guess it's just even how important the rhetoric is versus the actual maintenance of power and like upholding a certain type of power, like the rhetoric behind it, or the talking head behind it. I think we're just seeing show and proof it doesn't necessarily matter as much as we try to say democracy, as much as we try to say, human rights. And anyway, we'll get into it even further on the next one, but
Yeah.
Lord of mercy.
Sad news, very sad news. I cried when I was working from home and I saw this. And then I was happy that I cried, sadly, because I felt like, oh, good, you're not desensitized to it. But another school shooting, this time in Georgia, and a 14-year-old. How old is Jolie?
14.
14. Maybe that's why it got to me too, because I'm like, I remember being 14. I remember being the first day of school at Kappa. I remember sitting next to Amanda in the lunchroom. I remember sitting with Jasmine, like in choir. Like I remember being so excited and like happy and curious and nervous, but like I can't imagine this in any sense. So a 14-year-old student opened fire at Georgia high school, killing 2 students. Mason Skirmerhorn was 14 as well. Christian, I'm going to say his name. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Angullo. Angelou. Also 14. And 2 teachers. Richard Aspinwall was only 39, and Christina Iremy, 53, before surrendering to a school resource officer, according to authorities. The shooter will now be charged with murder. He also injured 8 other students and a teacher. Officials identified the shooter as Colt Gray and said that he would be prosecuted as an adult. He also used an AR platform style weapon. And CNN today just reported that the gun that was used was a holiday gift from his father after this child was being investigated by the feds earlier for school shooting threats in May of 2023. So he was already on the radar. Now he went to another school, obviously high school, and then he said, I would never, I would never have any kind of threats against about killing people. That's not me. And so there wasn't much that they could do. I'm going to play a clip. That's okay. I just want to play a clip. And I'm not going to put any context to it, but let me just play it. Can you write down the time?
We only have a minute, but I wanted to go back to 2022 to Republican Congressman Mike Collins, who represents the Georgia district where Appalachian High School is, who posted this video on social media where he holds and shoots an assault weapon.
Well, Joe, I got some news for you. Let me tell you what Georgians are really playing. First of all, you count the legal votes that were cast in the state of Georgia. Donald Trump won this state, period. You see, Georgians are sick and tired of weak-kneed, spineless politicians who won't fight for Trump, get to the bottom of 2020, and fix our elections. Well, if they won't do it, Mike Collins will.
So that's Republican Congressman Mike Collins, who represents the Georgia district where the massacre just took place yesterday.
Okay. So that is the representative of that district. That was a campaign ad where he literally takes his gun, his shotgun or whatever the fuck kind of gun it is, and shoots at this, looks like if you watch the ad, it looks like some sort of like human-esque kind of body and like hay, and it blows up in smithereens after saying Joe Biden, we're sick of spineless politicians, yada, yada, yada. Okay? I just want to add some context to this. And there's a couple of conversations that I'm having with myself right now. One, I should say that CNN just broke that the father will be charged as well. Mm-hmm. And I was waiting for that because the questions that came to my mind was, of course, this is horrible for these families, for these children. If you listen to the kids being interviewed who kept their, who made it out safely, I guess, physically safe, they're completely traumatized. One boy talked about stepping over the dead body of one of his classmates and didn't even shed a tear. His face was just like complete shock. Mm-hmm. And then I'm thinking, should a 14-year-old be tried as an adult? Mm-hmm. I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the shooter's family, Colt Gray, I saw, I don't have him on here, but they were on Facebook going off about him being tried as an adult and how terrible they feel for the families of the victims, but how there's no way in hell that they're going to stand by and let their 14-year-old family member be tried as an adult. That was the day of the shooting. I don't know if that was in the best taste, right? The media, I also see, is referring to the 14-year-old as the gunman, man, instead of shooter. In a lot of cases, it's a gunman, which is very interesting. They don't normally do that. And then I'm thinking to myself, how will we can't ignore that we are in the middle of a presidential election. How much will each one of these campaigns use this tragedy to gain in a state that is a red state, very close within the margin of error, where Kamala Harris is only up 1 point. Mm-hmm. But that's the margin of error. You don't know who the fuck's going to win Georgia. And how should they do it? Donald Trump, we know, wants more guns in schools. Teachers should have guns. That they could have prevented this, which is like,
by killing the 14-year-old?
This is what the Republican Party has stated, right? And then, but outside of prayers and well wishes, right? Then you have Kamala Harris, who is I think, president of whatever organization that Joe Biden, it's not an organization, but task group that Joe Biden put together to combat all of these school shootings and to actually do something about guns, which they actually passed legislation that was probably some of the most progressive gun legislation. It doesn't go nearly as far as we needed to, but sadly, that's what they could get done. And then I started thinking, like, what the hell makes a 14-year-old do this? And I immediately went to, he must be mentally ill. He must be this and that. And so I went down the rabbit hole of Google, and David Brooks from the New York Times said the common thing to say about mass shooters is that they have mental health issues, but that's often misleading. This has been studied in a variety of ways. A majority of mass shooters are not suffering from a diagnosed mental illness. It's mostly the circumstances that drive them to do what they do, not an underlying disease, which then means that this is preventable because circumstances actually fucking change. So if some of this stuff is driven by circumstances, and then he went in to talk about how a young person's brain is not fully developed, so their current circumstances feels like the end all be all without some sort of intervention. You don't, if you don't get to that root, it can stem into this. And George Bernard Shaw wrote many years ago, the worst sin towards our fellow creatures is not to hate them, but to be indifferent about them. And that is the essence of inhumanity. And I started to think about, like, they can't even figure out what the connection is that this kid had to these other two students. He literally just was indifferent about who he was going to kill, who he was going to shoot. And then I'm just like, why? And so anyway, in the New York Times, I'll get off of this soon, but he says that these young men are frequently ghosts. That's how he describes them. They often experience early childhood trauma like abuse or extreme bullying. In school, no one knows them. Boys and girls turn their backs on them. Later, when journalists interview the teachers or neighbors, they are often remembered as withdrawn or remote. These young men have no social skills and they harden in solitude. Many contemplate suicide. This is the key point. Mass murder is often a form of suicide and can be treated as akin to suicide. In their despair, many seem to have what almost amounts to an identity crisis. Is it my fault or is it the world's fault? Am I a loser or are they all losers? The victim turns to villain. And then he goes on to say these guns seem to have some sort of psychological effect too. For people who have felt impotent all their lives, the gun seems to provide an almost neurotic sense of power.
Narcotic.
The other thing that I will say, and then I'll shut up and let you talk about this, I found it infuriating, disheartening, gross that somebody on Twitter, and media outlets fucking ran with this, some of them, they posted the report saying that they were reporting the 14-year-old Colt Gray was arrested while using an image of one of the victims, Mason Schermerhorn, who happens to be the only Black victim. And so immediately people were like, wait, a Black kid did this? And then people were talking about that. And so many outlets had to come out and say, like, this is the victim. But you literally put the headline up there with that kid's face. So imagine being the mother, the family of Mason, and Mason's face is being splattered all over the fucking internet as though he was the shooter when he was indeed deceased. Are you kidding?
It's absurd. It's almost like an Atlanta episode. You can't make that's surreal. That is absurd. Everywhere you look, there's sickness oozing out. Like with this, everywhere is just
from the political play to the gun play to the inhumanity to everything, to the
dysfunction and
media,
from
the punishment. I don't know that a 14-year-old should be.
Not.
I don't know that they should be tried as an adult. And I know that's a hard pill for some people to swallow.
Oh no, the fact that it's a hard pill for people to swallow is also indicative of sickness. Are you fucking kidding me? You think a 14-year-old boy should spend 60 years in prison after doing that?
No.
You think he should be up for the death penalty after doing that? At risk of being electrocuted?
And his parent gave him the weapon
It's just
after knowing, after being made aware that there was some sort of seemingly a threat from your son just a year prior, not even. Are you kidding?
a country aghast at a state that supports gun rights, that produced a family and a father that thinks it's okay to empower a child to have a gun
At 14.
at 14, who then uses that gun to express him. I also can't take away the fact that the gendering of it all, that it's always these young boys at these, at this time of puberty, of this time of identity, of this of and how this is the route that it goes. And I'm fascinated by that idea of being unseen and power,
A
and
ghost, yeah.
a ghost, and the imploding of, like, I'm so hurt, like it's less about, I don't
Me,
know,
it's
but
you.
it's
You
less about
guys are the
you,
problem.
or it's all about me, and you
Mhm.
guys are now, like, it's less about, it's one thing about the bullying, but then when there's not bullying and these kids are just going in and somehow, like, engulfing other people into their own pain is also just wild to me. But also, I just can't, to go back what we were talking about with politics, and then people, these red and blue states freaking out talking about guns while feeling completely disempowered themselves to have no moral standing or real moral conviction about guns, while being one of the largest purveyors of weapons in the world, that's actively giving guns to folks that are killing babies at this point. We're seeing blown up 14, 50 entire families. We're seeing constantly murdered children. To me, it's the darkest, most absurd, sadistic irony that you can't make sense of. It's reeking from the inside out, Antoinette. I don't actually think there's anything we can do except watch this shit. Like, how do you what do we do? What do we do
We need gun laws and we need some humanity. There
for
was a
us,
woman.
though?
No, obviously obviously not, Shanti. But
I don't
the
know.
way humanity seems to be working these days is people don't recognize. People tend to struggle to understand someone else's humanity until theirs is questioned. Sadly, and I'm curious to know how this might impact some folks in Georgia. And I will say a lot of people, it's not an unpopular opinion for there to be more gun control in this country. People want their guns, but it's not an unpopular opinion for there to be more gun control. There's no reason why a 14-year-old has access to a gun. I know some people, definitely people who grew up in the South, who had guns at a young age. They did not have access to them. They were gifted them. They were hunting guns. It's a part of the culture. I don't subscribe to it, but I also didn't grow up in it. So I'm not going to sit here and look down on anybody else. The access is a problem. The fact that the checks are not put into place are a problem. The fact that this parent knew that the child had accusations against him about school shootings in May 2023 and still gifted the boy a gun is a problem. The fact that you can buy a gun from a gun show and not need a permit not need anything, it's a fucking problem. So no, I don't have the solve for the humanitarian part of this. People don't feel for the unhoused and the poor until they're unhoused and poor most often. And
I mean, but this is it. Like,
I
I
don't
feel
know.
like this is the
I
mirror,
don't know.
you know,
You
in
know
a
what?
way.
Look at Uvalde. Nothing fucking changed. They still voted for fucking governor. What's his fucking name? Abbott. Is that his name? I hate him.
I don't know, but
Anyway,
it reeks. It reeks, y'all. It's a dead corpse, y'all. We're trying to keep a dead corpse. The America, I don't know. At
not
this
you back
point,
at Deb Corpse. You were
for
just
real.
saying we got to get locally involved.
No,
And
and
now
then
you're
I
like dead
remember,
corpse.
and then I remember. Sometimes I remember, like, oh, this is what's his name, Mister? What's
We're
the
on
new?
life support.
What's no?
Operation.
What is the show where they were keeping the dead uncle alive in the 80s? It was like, oh god, it was a very popular show, movie. God damn it.
I don't know.
The whole
That's
movie was that it was a dead uncle and they kept pretending that he was alive and they were animating him. At this point,
gross.
that's true. It's of our era too. Maybe it's a little bit older than us, but is a
Google
popular
that because I
uncle.
want to know. All right, let's move on. We do have something lighter, y'all. Things to mention: the debate is September 10th. I'm very hyped. I hate that they're gonna mute the mics, but Trump's team wouldn't agree to do the debate unless they muted their own candidate's mic if he was not being asked a question, which tells you all about the faith that they have in their candidate. I don't even want to talk about that because that makes me sad. Special counsel Jack Smith, that's the whitest name. He's revised the charges against Trump in the 2020 election interference case. Hearings took place today where the judge was clear this black woman ain't playing and she don't give a fuck about the election and that she's going to treat this case like any other. Now, he revised the charges on this case based off of the Supreme Court ruling that a president should have immunity for presidential actions. So he was like, oh, okay, cool. This one, not presidential. I'm trying this case again. Trump's defense also, his legal defense, slipped and revealed that Justice Clarence the Coon Thomas is involved in some more unethical shit. Now, the defense today said, Justice Thomas directed us to raise this issue. The judge interjected and said, he directed you to do it? The defense said, well, he didn't direct us to. This blew up on social media. People were like, what? You have a Supreme Court justice helping the former president rather, behind the scenes to figure out how to get out of this case? Are you fucking kidding me? I can't stand the dude. Also, Amazon Alexa is under fire. Why? Well, because when you ask Alexa why you should vote for Trump, it says that I cannot comment on political things. It's too complicated. It's outside of my wheelhouse. When you ask why you should vote for Kamala, Alexa was like, well, she's the first black woman. She runs on this.
Alexa,
and Fox News is having a field day with this, are they? And then I don't even know if we should say this, but prayers for, do you want to talk about this? The Rebecca, I don't know how to say her last name either, Chepedji, who finished 44th in the Paris Olympics women's marathon. She passed away.
Yeah, her boyfriend apparently poured gasoline on her, petrol on her, and then set her on fire. And she was reported in critical condition. I think it was yesterday, the day before I heard about it. And then she just passed today, 33 years old with children.
And the media not saying what is very specific to the story, that her boyfriend did it.
Really?
They keep saying prayer. Yes.
Oh.
Not mainstream media outlets.
Really?
And a lot of people are in the comments like, excuse me, you need to write this because it's an important factor and you need to shed some light on the real aspect of the issue here. The main issue here is that her
domestic violence
significant other, did this. And his ass is fucking still fighting for his life because he burned himself as well.
And I believe years before, the same thing happened to another athlete. Same
You're
thing.
kidding.
In Kenya, yeah. So rest in power. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to the children. I'm just so sorry. I'm just sorry to the whole community. That is devastating. Lord of mercy.
We got to put some good news on here. We really do. We have to have some good news on here. We got to work harder for that. No, there's plenty of good things happening.
Also, the movie I was referencing is Weekend at Bernie's.
I ain't never see that.
It's a white
It's a
occult
classic,
classic.
though.
I feel like white folks love that movie.
Mm.
Anywho,
do you want to take a breath, a cleansing breath, especially
how
before
do
we
do
get
that
into this
again?
demonic bullshit?
How do we do that again? What he said to do?
He said we gotta. All right, Rolando, come on, Rolando, channeling
There's
Rolando. He
different
said take a
ones.
deep breath, and then when you think you don't have enough, you have too much, you're gonna take another breath, and you're gonna let it all out. Okay?
Sure.
Ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Listeners, you too.
Ready?
Go. Regulate your nervous system. For us to scramble that shit back up. Get into this bullshit. Lee Daniels deserves jail. Go ahead, Shanti. Go ahead.
So I was just scrolling on the Instagram, and then I see a demon Glenn Close in a hospital bed saying some wild shit out her mouth. And I was like, where is this from? What is this? And it was a clip from the newest release by Lee Daniels on Netflix called The Deliverance. It's featuring Monique. This is the reuniting of Monique and Lee Daniels since the infamous separation and blacklisting of the goddess in Hollywood. She had to check everybody. So this is them getting back together. Andra Day and Ingenue Ellis Taylor, as well as the iconic Glenn Close. Okay, who for a long time I thought it was Meryl Streep for a minute because I get my kind of white people fucked up for a little bit. Then I was like, oh yeah, Glenn Close. I know what she looked like. So I sat down, and I was like, trying to get that release, trying to get that rest, and I was like, well, let me watch this after
this
a
is
long
not
day.
restful. I hate you so much.
And basically, it is a mix of Precious and The Exorcist, okay? I was not prepared for I knew it was going to be a horror story. But what was the most horrific was the betrayal of this, the betrayal. Betrayal? Betrayal?
Portrayal?
Portrayal. I was about to say, that is not
the
right.
betrayal. I thought you were saying that.
No, portrayal. I was like, no, I ain't been reading, but I know that is not right. What's the other word? Portrayal of the family dynamics of this. I'll share a little bit without sharing so much. It's
Oh, first of all, wait. Just get ready, y'all. It's gonna be some spoilers. Spoiler the fuck alert, because there's no way to talk about this without going into some detail. So if you ain't watching, turn this off now and then come on back. Go ahead, Shanti.
So the characters tell the story of a single mother of 3 who moves into a home with her sick white mom. She's a biracial woman. 3 black kids with a white mom, who is played by Glenn Close. And this is like a hood ass white lady that cooks collard greens and mixes and mingles with black men and wears wigs and was just a very interesting.
Was she interesting? Okay.
No, she wasn't interesting in like, I want to know more about her, but the betrayal of her was Lee Daniels, felt that she was very significant and very important to the story for whatever reason.
Oh,
and so the mother, who is struggling to make ends meet, obviously she's impoverished. Seems
obviously,
to have had,
that's what all black mothers are. But go ahead.
She seems to have had issues with abuse. There are many references to her and very many depictions of her physically and verbally abusing her children, calling her young teenage daughter a bitch, Obviously dealing with her own generational trauma and her struggle with addiction of alcoholism, and not being very attentive to her children, and the children are responding by wanting to leave and escape and, you know, shutting down and wanting to go with their father, which was really, really hard for me to watch. And I was like, what the fuck does this have to do with the horror part? I was like, this is horrific in other ways that but anyway, they're in this house, and this house seems to be haunted. There's a bunch of flies that they can't, kill. And then the story progresses with a possession of her babies. And her mother, both trying to like see, like, are you abusing your kid? Because she also has a history of abuse. So the demon is like beating the kids up. But then, I feel like Lee is trying to create this nuance by saying, well, no one believes this Black struggling mother when the bruises are coming up on her children, because she already has this history of abuse, and systemically, she's assumed to be capable and still doing this. And so she kind of loses the kids to the system and inevitably loses the kids to the demon, because no one believes her. And then this demon takes over and makes the kids do vile, crazy things. And she meets with a apostle who basically is like, listen, I know what you fucking with right now. Like, this is a demon. I had lost another family to this demon. Like, you got to have faith. And so the mother then overcomes this demon through her love of Christ and her speaking of Christ's name, and allowing the spirit to overcome her and break this chain of demonic possession. And then she gets back with the father, who was in Iraq. Wait a minute.
That shit irritated.
That nigga was crazy. I was like, is he in war or he just went to Iraq? Like, most niggas go to Colombia, not Iraq. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why he just decided to go to Iraq. But
no, he didn't go to Iraq, girl. He was deployed. What the fuck?
She never said that. She was like,
that was they were inferring that. You think he just got on a plane and went to Iraq?
The way that they didn't tell any of his background story. Really, I was like,
you get on my
Colombia
nerves.
is the hot spot. Most niggas would be in Colombia right now.
Or anyway. DR, Miami. He went to DR.
And then everything was okay. And then,
why was it okay?
In between that,
let's see, you missed the whole point.
Close is the child in his possession morphs into the deceased Glenn Close, because her white mom dies. And then Glenn Close says some crazy shit along the lines, kind of like
I can smell your nappy pussy, is what she said. That's what she said to that lady. That's what Lee Daniels sat down at a chair and wrote. I can smell your nappy pussy.
And Glenn was like,
that's what she said.
I'm going to bring this to life. Say less, fam.
Committed to the role. And apparently the real shocker was that this is based on a true story at the end. I said, you didn't know that? Watching it?
No, not until I saw the end when she was like, in loving memory of, and I was like,
true events.
I said, who the fuck is that? And then I Googled, I said, oh, hell no. And the part that they said really happened was the child climbing up the wall. The thing that made me the most upset amongst many was that child crawling up the wall. And come to find out that really happened.
That didn't happen.
In real life, they said nobody.
Yes, girl, and a lot of people said that the mom was trying to convince the kids of that. Yes, I read it.
The DHS worker said that it happened.
Not the DHS worker. You so Philly. Call DHS.
The DHS worker said it. Corroborated.
Be quiet.
How you say that? Corroborated. Corroborate. I love that word. Ooh, corroborated on that. So,
no. All right, y'all. Shanti hit me up and I did not want to watch this movie as soon as I saw a couple clips. It was like when the Tyler Perry film came out and they stole that body from the casket, and I said, not for me. I'll never. I saw Glenn Close say, I can smell your nappy pussy with them teeth that look like she was about to get her veneers. And I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. But Shanti said,
no, I didn't really
we want to. No, you
like,
said
I while drink. You sent me the clip first of all, and I was like, I had already watched it.
I said,
like,
now I gotta
watch this.
I did not get drunk. I was
Not
sober.
drunk.
I said, now I gotta watch this because you didn't put it on the motherfucking outline.
Well, because I thought you were with the shit.
No, I wasn't. So let me tell you. Now I'll read to y'all. I took some notes while I watched it. This is my stream of consciousness. Okay, read it in order. The fact that the grandmother was not white in real life, but Lee Daniels conjured up Glenn Close's character as some sort of attempt to depict the most basic, pedestrian, and underdeveloped interracial family blows my motherfucking mind. Fuck him. My mother is nothing like her. Your mother is nothing like her. I guess I'm talking to you while I'm writing this. If this was a comedy, sure, it would work. Scary movie, maybe? Question mark. What the fuck is this supposed to be? A drama? Why is the damn daughter's name Ebony? Why does Omar Epps have a damn do-rag on as a chemo nurse? Monique's performance is aggressive and weird for no reason. Is there no room for joy? She looks like Rihanna in that red wig, though.
She did.
Why the fuck is Omar Epps singing at this baby's birthday party to an old-ass grandma? I fucking hate it here. These actors knew this was trash. I know they did. Now, how did she afford a new iPhone? I thought she was broke. Who the fuck is Trey? If you watch this movie, you'll understand all this. No, seriously, is this a comedy? She beating the shit out of those kids. Why is the teacher telling the kids about her brother dying from AIDS? That was so weird and forced. Like, what? He threw everything but the kitchen sink in here. Is Andre throwing shit at the teacher? Oh my God, he ate it? Wait, is she paying for chemo out of pocket as a damn barber? These kids wildin'. Jesus, this is terrible. Wait, Andre for real ate his shit? The dad is in Iraq? I can't. Is this what he
money home? He said,
Is this what he thinks having a white mom is like? What the fuck is happening? Oh, now it's all about race? I'm so tired. Ingenue is the only human that could have delivered this monologue that well in such a bad movie.
Why did she get a part of it?
Glenn Close dead?
I know.
Now we introduce child molestation and rape. What else can we throw at the wall? What in the Spider-Man possessed child is this?
Child molestation and rape.
Girl, Monique is very calm right now watching this little boy climb up this wall, and she should be screaming, I can smell your nappy pussy. Who the fuck wrote this? Why would that ghost grab her by her hair like that? Remember when he grabbed Ingenue like that? By her hair?
It was nuts.
It was terrible. Is he a werewolf now? Did she just say, Ebony, I'm dying? Did Lee Daniels just have the character announce her death? Now it's the WWE? What was Andra thinking while doing this scene?
Why did she
How did she get into how far did she get into filming before she knew how bad this actually was? Is demonic Andra wearing all white Air Force 97s? And she was. She was. I looked at the shoe and was like, that's an Air Force 97 on her foot. Did the damn demon just say we all we got? The demon saw New Jack City? Not the tongues being the way out of this. I'll never be saved enough to like this movie.
I forgot.
I will never be saved enough to like this movie. Not Ebony now going to Philly.
That's so funny. How you make a clip? That is funny.
So she doesn't have to answer for Ingenue's body? Ingenue is dead in the house. I hate Lee Daniels. The court should have kept them fucking kids.
The court should have kept them fucking kids.
That's what I wrote. That movie was offensive. I was offended watching it. As a
racial person? As what?
Really, as a black mixed woman first. As a black woman, I was really offended by that depiction. And
of everybody?
Of everybody. Of the whole entire setting It was wrong. It was all wrong. And I'm like, there's no depth in these characters. And everybody's like, oh, well, the acting was good. No, the fuck it wasn't. Okay. They did the best with what they could do, but there was no character development. I mean, it was trope after trope after trope with no depth, no curiosity. The pacing was bad. The script was horrible. The special effects were fucking mid. The wardrobe was forced. It was pedestrian in every fucking way possible. It was like, how many stereotypes can I fit into one movie and sell this to Netflix as the fucking Black experience? And then I'm going to top it off with all you got to do is have faith. And the way that I'm going to depict faith is not by having real faith, it's by speaking in tongues and throwing holy water on something. It was the most performative Black experience.
Terrible.
It was terrible, and it was terribly offensive. It was offensive for us as the viewer. It was offensive to me as for the actors to be subjected to this, to know that they have to take roles because the roles are limited, that these are the roles that these brilliant, beautiful artists are being offered is sick. To see that it is #1 on Netflix is fucking sick. To understand that audiences actually want this shit or enjoy this shit means we're going to get more of this shit is fucking sick. I was talking to my sister and I was like, Black people are the artists of all artists. And you give me that, Lee Daniels. You deserve fucking jail. It should have been a spoof. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. The Glenn Close thing was like,
he said every Black person knows an Alberta. That's the character's name. She's part of the fabric of our community, but we've never seen her on screen before. Thank you, Glenn, for bringing her magnificently to life. Why did Glenn Close, Ingenue, Andra Day, who won a Oscar, Monique, why did they? I don't understand why they didn't read that script and say, actually, no, I'll pass.
Again, I'm going to say this. It's Lee Daniels who did Precious and got a whole bunch of kudos for that, right? So it's a director that you trust. It's fucking Netflix, so I'm sure the bag was crazy. And also, I'll say this. Editing will make or break your fucking film. No. The pace was so bad. The editing was so bad that I feel like maybe they thought that there was a chance, and I will give it to them. They committed fully. I mean, when Omar Epps put that do-rag on and was grinding up on Glenn Close old ass, I was like, this motherfucker is really doing this. He really is. When I was listening to some of the lines being delivered, all the fuck you, bitch, fuck you. I mean, whatever. And Lee Daniels actually said that Andra came to him and was like, I think she needs to show a little more kindness towards her mother. And he's like, I told her no. There's love in there. There's love in there. And the audience has to find it. And what kind of fucking direction is that? It's one note. It's flat. And the worst part, honestly, is that Lee Daniels takes himself seriously. That's the worst part. All of the white gays, and not gays like Gays, but gays as in I see you, motherfucker, Gaze. All the white gays, all the money, all the accolades has him, just like Andre, eating his own shit. Truly. Like, there's no way that he watches that and then goes on some of these interviews and says what he says.
But why? What if it's a matter of actual taste?
No, Shanti.
I don't get it. But like Tyler Perry, but like it's the same thing with Tyler Perry.
I got the same energy.
You cannot tell Tyler Perry that he's not making, a certain type of film for a certain type of people, and that it connects to them, and that he is allowing folks to see themselves reflected, and that there is a certain community, a certain it mirrors a certain community in the Black collective. And
there is a certain community that likes it. The mirroring, though, I ain't never seen no Black person go to a fucking funeral and take somebody's body out the casket and drag it out. So show me that Black person, Tyler.
Hold on.
Stop.
Lainey of Critique, Lainey Gossip wrote, and I think this is encompassing everything you said. While it's understandable that some of the stereotypes we saw in Precious and in so many other movies about experiences impacted by race may be necessary in some capacity to tell the story, I think the audience's disconnection, my disconnection, always stems from how and when we use tropes for creative purposes, when we use them as a crutch in storytelling. And moreover, we center whiteness in all of it, whether it's through casting or the lens from which the story is told. We see Tyler Perry do this a lot, leaning heavily on the angry Black woman trope or the successful Black woman that can't find a man and therefore must settle trope. Somebody said in a tweet, let's all admit that Lee Daniels is Target and Tyler Perry is Walmart. They're mostly the same, but slight changes in demographics and aesthetics allow you to view one more favorably than the other and sometimes overpay for them. But reality is quality of product is pretty equal. And I felt like that was such a good comparison there, because but this makes me think, Antoinette, this makes me put on my tin hat of why are these niggas being platformed and
Why
given
not?
and funded for this type of trash?
Because it's the trope. It's the stereotype. This
But
is
then,
by
then that makes me
design.
think that makes me think it's a big conspiracy then. The fact
Hello,
that
it is. Are you fucking kidding? Yes. Boom, boom. There you go. Hit the nail on the head. Yes. Yes, they're a part of it. Yes. Yes, they're very much. They are COINTELPRO. Yes. That's where we're at. This is dangerous. This
Girl.
to me, without the other, if you're going to fund this bullshit, then you better fund Daughters. You better fucking fund, I don't know, Lynn Nottage. You better fund Lorraine Hansberry. You better fund some real shit and not give it to these motherfuckers to actually do the movies of. Tyler Perry, who did basically a spoof one for women who considered suicide when the rainbow's enough. I don't need that from Tyler the fuck Perry.
I know.
It's listen, Tyler Perry created a studio. He's employed many Black artists. I get it. But we also have to understand the damage that is being done. It's just like, as somebody who loves the arts, okay? That's why I get so upset about this. I'm somebody who misses the arts deeply. I have a fucking degree in theater. Nobody can tell me that I wasn't the shit on stage. The most disheartening thing about auditioning was going in and only being offered the old trope. That was it. Because of my stature, because of my weight, because of how I presented, it was, oh, you'll be the funny Black girl, or you'll be the old wise woman who's been struggling all her life and sad. And it's just so fucking flat. And I see amazing Black artists being given slop to work with. And it's deeper than just, oh, ha ha ha, the movie isn't that bad, get over it. To me, it's just it's so indicative of the industry. It's so indicative of what can just really haunt an artist and make someone just question everything. It's so
it must
sad.
be maddening.
It's maddening. Could you imagine being Viola Davis and only being the help for so long?
I'll say this. There are many Black artists out there. There are many incredible Black films being made. To go to Netflix or to go to the major box offices to consume this may not be the place to go, but I just want to uplift and shout out Black Star Film Festival. Yes. So many spaces that, one, are led by people that have incredible taste, and also just recognize talent and continue to platform and, create space for them. And you have to consciously, unfortunately, for those that are hungry for it, there are writers and there are filmmakers out there making incredible work. There are spaces for them. Of course, the troublesome part is the funding is where it gets all tricky.
How do you pay your bills?
Niggas
And
are figuring it out. People are figuring it out. Folks are figuring it out. But for those people that are writing or acting, you got to find that community and the people that are doing it. But
this was a betrayal. It really was. This
it
was a
was a
betrayal.
terrible portrayal and betrayal of. It was terrible.
It was terrible. I wasn't even offended as an interracial. I was offended
I
as a
didn't
fucking
yeah.
artist and a Black woman. Like, what am I watching? How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you diminish us and then tell us this is the reflection of us? Who?
Jolie was even flabbergasted. The fuck?
You know, last thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna check out Marlon Wayans on Shannon Sharp's Uncle Shannon, Uncle Shay Shay. He's on there talking his shit. And if it's one thing that I do is respect the Wayans family, because they came and they fucking built some shit and they put these white people on. Jim Carrey.
Mm-hmm.
He told a story about how in Living Color one year during the Super Bowl. Did you see this? During the Super Bowl one year, the Super Bowl was having like marching bands and shit for its halftime show. They weren't doing these big halftime shows yet. And so they came up with this idea of during the halftime show, we're gonna do a halftime show and it's gonna be live and we're gonna do it. And all the viewers left the Super Bowl and went over to In Living Color because that was the hot shit and watched.
Oh no,
I'm sorry,
I didn't know that. I thought that was like performances, right?
Well, no, they were doing their sketch comedy. Yes, it was like a 20-minute live, like big In Living Color event. The very next year, who performed at the halftime show? Michael fucking Jackson. The Super Bowl said, "You ain't never doing that to us. You're not taking our viewers."
Wow.
The influence of them is incredible. And Jim Carrey talks about it. And I'm like, I don't always love everything that the Wayans, especially Marlon and the other one, do. But Damon and all them, like, they got nothing but my respect. Really all of them. Because to maneuver through this horrible industry and to create some shit where Black folks were getting paid, they were writing, they
performing,
starting people's career off, and it was good. It was quality. The jokes landed in a way that it wasn't. I don't look at that.
Iconic, baby. It was culture
but
shifted.
I wasn't offended. It wasn't for white gays. White people could watch it and enjoy it, but it wasn't for them. It wasn't the trope thing.
You think that this movie is for white people that Lee Daniels created?
I think that, I don't know. I think it was for money. And I think that's why it gets greenlit. But I think that Lee Daniels is so out of touch with who Black folks actually are. And with a mixture of a terrible artist who just hasn't done enough real work.
Yeah,
to like really like you're just not that skilled.
No, you don't have the range, baby.
You don't have the range. You don't have the depth to you to even write a good comedy. Like you couldn't, and that's hard to do with this content. Like to even do that, you don't have the range.
No.
You need to. People been begging Tyler Perry to stop writing his movies.
Begging
him, please stop. You don't have the range anymore. The plays and shit, it was cute. Your little chitlin circuit was cute. People fuck with it. They liked it. You've done amazing things, but like now let's dig deeper into the artistry of the thing.
You hit the nail on the head there. You are not artists. You are not artists. And even if you get these incredible artists, just like Ingenue and all these people, it still doesn't work.
You're giving them trash to work with. It doesn't matter
if you get Oprah to fund it or whatever. You're no Barry Jenkins. You think Moonlight, dealing with, an addicted mother, abuse,
editing,
the hood,
the way it was lit, the story, everything.
It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's one of the most gorgeous, impactful, penetrating, heartbreaking films I've ever seen. But you ain't got the range. You're not an artist. You're not an artist. That's the fact. He's not an artist
because you're not in the gym. You're not in
You
there
don't
really
care.
working on your
No.
craft. You're not
Yeah.
really in there like
Yeah.
sitting with your character and
Yeah.
saying, what is this character's motivation? What does this
Mhm.
character want?
Mhm. Mhm.
They're the most underdeveloped stories for these
Mhm.
characters.
Mhm.
Like who is the mom? Why is the mom like this? We don't have any idea. She's just a fucking stereotype. She's just
Yeah.
who we think of a white
Yeah.
woman who dates black men because
Uh-huh.
that's so easy.
Who wears
It's
big
so
hoops. Yeah.
pedestrian.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's so
yeah.
pedestrian. It's not even
Yeah.
well thought out. The kids just moved in the house and they're already getting beat up by the kids up the street. They just moved there, I thought.
Yeah.
So how do they have that relationship? How
Yeah.
is she paying for chemotherapy and she's cutting hair and
Child,
affording this house?
$30,000 in debt, child.
What are you even talking about right now? How is she
Yeah.
affording this iPhone? Did she get a new plan? Because iPhones without a plan is like $1,000 plus. What are we talking
And
about?
then they just get in the car and they're getting back with the dad. Like,
Right.
I saw the writers of South Park. South Park? There's a clip of the writers of South Park, and they're talking to a class of young college students, probably writers themselves, and they're talking about building a story. And he said, if your plot is connected by the words "and then" rather than "therefore" or "but," then you have no good story. So if you're saying like, this thing happened and then this thing happened rather than this thing happened, therefore this thing happened,
Cause
but
it's
this happened.
driving.
It's like connected, and they're all, if it's just, and that felt like it was just and then and then and then.
It
Anyway,
was so
girl,
disjointed. Last
Antoinette, I
thing,
ain't
there
see
was
you this fired up in a minute. I thought you was gonna come in here and key to go.
fuck no. I was furious. I text my sister like, I'm sorry, I'm going off. I'm irrationally angry. There was a 2 to 3 second scene. I don't know if you remember this, where after Andra gets super drunk at the kid's birthday party
With her
and
friend?
like with her girl, the random friend, like
Like,
everything just felt
what?
random, just whatever. She gets drunk. She looks in the mirror the next day and she swept that red weave out. She goes, I'm taking this out. I fuck everything up. Just that's it. 3 seconds of that. For what? For what?
then-
If you have
and
to,
then-
if the character has to tell me how they feel, you can't write.
You ain't doing it.
If the character has to announce she's dying, you can't write. There's no subtext. You're literally putting the words on the page. Like you don't give the actors anything to play with because they're literally saying their subtext. I can't do nothing right. Takes weave out. What? Who looks in the mirror and says I can't do nothing right? Nobody. Like, for what? It was just dumb. I would love to be in a room with him and curse him the fuck out. I really would. Like, I'm just like, whatever. I mean, my brother-in-law is a playwright. My sister is a playwright. Wrote beautiful quality work. These are two people who dedicated their lives to telling real stories about real people that they care about. They brought these
They're
people
generous.
to life.
Yeah, that you walk away feeling enriched. They're
Yes.
generous. He didn't give us nothing. He took shit away from us.
Exactly.
You gave me nothing.
You gave me nothing and now you're telling me, you're literally sitting here trying to tell me that the shit in your hand that you're eating tastes like chocolate. And it probably tastes like chocolate to you because Netflix and all the people are probably, if this shit gets nominated for anything,
No.
I might burn something down.
Well, they continue to put money in his hand and platform him. So people are crazy. He's like the emperor without the clothes.
Nah, this
niggas
is
are out
on
of it.
purpose. This is like Vladimir Putin, a fucking always goes back to politics. He endorsed Kamala. I was like, this motherfucker doesn't like Kamala Harris. He just wants people to think Kamala Harris is in bed with him. The psychological games of this is like Netflix said, hey, we're gonna give Lee Daniels money so you guys can have more Black stories
of abuse, struggle,
of nothing.
Of nothingness.
You can tell a story of abuse and struggle.
You can.
A Raisin in the Sun. Moonlight. A Raisin in the Sun has so much depth. Fences, so much depth. Go. I challenge Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels. Just read 2 August Wilson plays and come back to us. Just go and do that, please, please. Lynn Nottage, go read. Go. What was her play that I just loved? Go read it, please. I
Go
beg.
watch
I
I
beg.
May Destroy You. Like, go get it together. Anyway,
Intimate Apparel. Go read it. Try. I'm done. I'll get
all
off my
right.
high horse. And I don't want to hear no motherfuckers talking about that I'm on my high horse and I'm looking down on people. Fuck y'all if you like this movie, okay? Y'all tripping. Do better.
Too bad. Go.
You know who liked it?
Go read and watch all of those things.
Right.
And
You
matter
know
of
who
fact,
liked it? Fucking Mandy. And I was like, get off my phone, Mandy.
she
Get off
said it
my.
wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. You're just being a snob. Shut up.
Mandy.
Even her white mom not like that. I gotta go. I'm sick of it. I'm pissed. Thank you for
All right,
this episode.
thank you, y'all.
Should we name this Fuck Lee Daniels? No.
No.
Deliver us from deliverance. That's the name of this
Amen.
episode. Amen. Peace to the gods.
Old and new.
Bye.